Bill O'Reilly has spent the 2 weeks since the Charleston shooting defending racists in the South. Today, he is sending a racist to Penn Station in New York City to investigate what he says is a growing homelessness problem. See if you can find any racial angle in their coverage in this video.
Enter the busiest train depot in the country, Penn Station. In the past year, it has really gone downhill.
Do you guys come in and out of Penn Station often?
I do. I commute from New Jersey.
Does it affect you psychologically when you see homeless people in and out of this area?
Sure. Yeah, I think as a human being, you can't help but see that and feel something.
I see the upswing. I see a lot more people basically living here.
Living here?
In the stairwells, in the back areas.
When you're here and you see homeless people in Penn Station, how do you react?
It's kind of heartbreaking to see other people who don't have houses and don't have money to buy food, and it's a possibility that they could die from that.
In Penn Station, you're not allowed to loiter, sleep on the floor, or panhandle. These violations should get you either kicked out, fined, or thrown in jail.
I love the incongruency between the responses he was getting from some of the people and the lesson that he took from it.
He's so unaware and oblivious of what the reality is, and it's because of his own racial biases and his obvious disdain for black people. And Jesse Waters is just a deplorable human being.
Yeah, he's Crowder level deplorable.
I have no respect for him whatsoever. And people are not sleeping at Penn Station because it's the cool thing to do. People are not homeless because they want to be homeless. Like, think about his tone in that one video. We're going to show you a bunch of other videos. But in that one video, it's like, look at how we're inconvenienced by all these homeless people. They should be kicked out. They should be cited. They should be thrown in jail.
Yeah.
But cited, and then what? They're homeless. They have no money. They need help.
Yeah.
Right? You can actually aid the homelessness issue by helping people get on their feet, providing housing for them like Utah has done. Utah was having a huge issue with homelessness. People were being thrown into emergency rooms, and the state had to pay over $16,000 per homeless person when they would go to the ER. And then they realized, you know what's actually more cost effective? If we provide housing.
Yeah.
Housing was only $11,000. So not only are they initially saving money with the proposal, but they're also increasing property values because they're getting homeless people off the streets. They create programs that help homeless people get jobs so they can be independent at some point. See, that's what you do. But in this case, it's all about, we're inconvenienced by all these homeless people.
Yeah.
And then as you look at more videos, you're going to realize that they hone in on one particular group.
Yeah, I've always had a little bit of sympathy for him because he has to spend his days with Bill O'Reilly. But I've lost even that little bit of sympathy. Like, I love that they wanted to just they had some of the, oh my God, it's absolutely horrible, there's all these homeless people here. They got some of that, but then they also got some sympathetic people. They didn't apparently have enough hatred. They had to put in some of the sympathetic stuff. And his lesson was, they should be thrown on the streets. Like, he didn't have 1 ounce of the empathy that little girl they talked to did, where she was worried about them dying. He doesn't care if they die so long as they die outside of the train station he has to use. So in this second segment that you're going to see here, he is speaking actually with some of the homeless people that are currently in Penn Station.
Talk to any of the guys.
You live here. Do you sleep here too?
Yes.
Are you allowed to sleep here?
Yes.
What are you doing here at Penn Station today?
Nothing much. Picking up cans and bottles.
How much can you make off recycled cans and bottles?
You make $20 a day.
And I survive off of tips that people give me.
Do the authorities here allow you to sleep here?
They let you sleep up until a certain time.
Do the authorities ever give you a hard time?
No, they don't bother me. I don't bother nobody.
How long have you been homeless?
Oh, it's been like since 2005.
You don't have any health insurance?
Oh, sure. They give you that when you get on welfare.
How'd you wind up in this situation?
Drugs.
What kind of drugs?
Crack.
How do you make money?
Prostitution.
How do you make money to get by?
Oh, I have a pretty good stipend from the federal government.
I feel bad for the homeless people they talk to who felt like do they ever hassle you? And that homeless person might have thought, oh, look at him. He cares. He wants to know if we're being hassled when we're homeless. But no, he wanted to prove that they're getting away too easy. that they're on welfare, that they have a stipend. God knows what he has a fucking stipend for. He could be a vet for all we know. Do you think that that dude cared enough to actually ask?
So a few things that really stood out to me in that clip. First of all, everyone that he spoke to was black. Let's keep it real, okay?
Yeah, almost all the people who were inconvenienced were white. All the homeless people are black. There are no white homeless people in New York.
And then also, his body language as he was asking the questions really bothered me because it shows you exactly what he thinks of them. He thinks of them as throwaways. He thinks of them as inconveniences. He thinks of them as garbage. I mean, he's not making any eye contact with them as he's asking the questions. He's going like this, right? And it just shows you the level of disrespect and disdain he has.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have the one woman who admitted to having a drug problem, and I know exactly what went through his mind and exactly what went through the minds of Fox News viewers. Aha, see? They're all drug abusers. They all deserve to be on the streets. No, when people turn to drugs like crack cocaine, it's because of escapism. There's something happening in their lives, and what do they need? They need help, okay? They don't need to be demonized. But that's the difference between conservatives and liberals, right? Liberals genuinely believe that this country is about helping one another out and doing it for the greater good, whereas conservatives are like, fuck everyone. We have no interest in helping anyone. I'm only looking out for myself and my family.
Yeah.
I have no interest in being part of that group.
Yeah.
I don't look at that woman and think to myself, oh, she's garbage, she's turning to prostitution and she's doing drugs. I look at her and I think, what can we do to get her out of that situation so she's not sleeping in Penn Station?
Yeah, the conservatives you're talking about think, I will help exactly as many white Christians as I have to and no more to get what I want out of this country. And I'm glad that you brought up the body language because it made me think of an example. First of all, he refused to look them in the eye for more than a split second. Like, oh yeah, how do you get your money? He can't even look at them. And as he's standing, like in his suit, his body turned away. Anybody who's watched American Psycho, the scene where Patrick Bateman goes in the alley and is asking, like, oh, how did you get in this situation to the homeless man before he knifed him? That is exactly the body language there of Jesse Waters. He couldn't wait to knife this guy, not physically, but in terms of how he's going to make him and other people like him look when he goes back to the studio with OReilly. And that is what they then did. They go back, and this is the lesson they take from his reporting.
Giuliani and Bloomberg, the two previous mayors, their dictum was you can't stay there if you're homeless because there are homeless shelters where people can go in New York City, and you have to move along. You just can't park yourself there. But under de Blasio, that stopped. Is that what you are seeing?
I've noticed it, especially this winter. It's the worst I've ever seen it. It was little tent cities. You're stepping over people with animals, with supplies. There's new synthetic drugs now where people go out of their mind. They're very unpredictable. A lot of people are being attacked. And there's plenty of money to deal with this. They have a $78 billion budget in New York. Why can't they get these guys in really plush homeless shelters? It doesn't make any sense.
So
if they were to do that.
All this was a Bill de Blasio smear campaign at the expense of homeless people living at a train station. That's all that segment was about. Fox News is garbage. Garbage. It disgusts me that there are no regulations in place that prevent this kind of propaganda from seeping into society. But unfortunately, there is a population of people in the US that look at things like that, and it just fuels the hunger wars where we continuously fight one another in the working class and middle class, but we don't focus on the system that keeps people underneath, or beneath the government or corporations.
And look at them that's saying, look, we have homeless shelters for them. What more do they want? We should just give them luxurious homeless shelters because they would support that. If they were to do that, they would support it. And I noticed for some reason, when Jesse Waters went to Penn Station, he didn't ask the homeless people, why is it that you're not at a homeless shelter right now? Is it perhaps that a homeless shelter is not a very good place to be at in New York? Is it possible there's a threat of being robbed, possible violence, possible overcrowding, possibly can't find food there? Is it possible that it's not as great as they're making it out to be on the O'Reilly factor? I believe that is actually possible. And I love the idea that, I think that this is just because of de Blasio. What do you think? Oh, I think so as well. It's not possible that things have just gotten worse in this country for some poor people in New York. And by the way, it has nothing to fucking do with de Blasio. A 2015 report by the Coalition of the Homeless showed that homelessness rates have trended way up for decades, long before de Blasio took office in January 2014. While the city's population grew by about 16% between 1990 and 2014, the number of homeless people tracked in New York City shelter system more than tripled during this time. And finally, which is it? Are police slowdowns good? Are police slowdowns bad? Because you seem to like it when they're not enforcing the law to stick it to black people in New York that, oh, you just don't want us doing our job. That's suddenly political activism by the cops. But for some reason, when perhaps as a consequence of that, since it did seem to be at about the same time, they're not throwing homeless people out of Penn Station, suddenly it's the worst thing in the world. Is that all the cops are supposed to be doing in New York? Is sticking it to homeless people?
According to Fox News, yes. And not just homeless people, minorities walking around who should be stopped and frisked, in their opinion.